There are some questions in Washington. Questions that everyone knows but no one asks. It is whispered behind closed doors. It is implied in press conferences. But it is not said directly in front of the camera on an open microphone. Dan Goldman asked that question. He opened his folder, looked at the FBI director, and said, "Director Patel, does Donald Trump appear anywhere in the Epstein files?" Patel: "I'm sorry, could you repeat that?" "It's not a complicated question. Does Donald Trump appear anywhere in the Epstein files?" And Kash Patel, who has been saying for 11 months that everything in this committee is being conducted transparently and that there is nothing to hide, couldn't say anything. Watch the entire video, because this moment requires understanding within its context. But to understand that question, one needs to understand how Goldman arrived at that question. And this is the result of months of preparation. Section 1. Setting the scene. The hearing that began before the Senate Intelligence Committee seemed routine. Budget allocations, personnel updates, a mundane agenda item. Goldman did this deliberately. If Patel had known what would be asked, he would have coordinated with his legal team, consulted with the White House, and prepared responses. Goldman, however, knew that none of what he would do in the next 40 minutes would reach the public, and he planned accordingly. Patel was already seated when Goldman entered, 3 lawyers behind him, with folders held by 2 assistants. Her usual stance, shoulders back, chin up. The look of someone who has done this dozens of times and survived each time. He looked relaxed. He looked prepared. He looked like a man who had nothing to worry about. Goldman sat down at the table, calm, quiet, almost friendly. He nodded at Patel. Patel nodded back. At that moment, nothing indicated that in the next 40 minutes, careers would be shaken, institutions questioned, and a conversation that had been buried for a decade would begin. Chapter 2. The first question. Where? The first 30 minutes met expectations. Then Goldman took the microphone. "Epstein documents," he said. "The documents your office informed this committee would be released on the 14th. Documents that have been waiting in the FBI evidence warehouse for 6 years. Documents that should contain the answers to the questions the American people have been asking for a decade." He stopped. "Where are they, Director Patel?" Patel's jaw clenched, the subtle twitch in his jawline the kind that seasoned observers would immediately notice. "Senator, as I have stated previously, is committed to releasing all documents that can be released within the framework of FBI legal obligations and national security assessments," he said. Goldman shook his head and replied in a single sentence, "That's not an answer to my question. I asked where they were." Then he placed a single-page, declassified document on the table. "This is an internal FBI memo, dated October 3rd. It has been sent from your office to the Classification Review Board." He removed it for the cameras. "He is requesting a delay in the publication of all Epstein-related documents that are planned to be made public. Could you explain this to the committee?" One of Patel's lawyers leaned forward. Patel didn't look at him. "Senator, classification reviews are routinely conducted for all categories of documents. It is not unusual for adjustments to be made to a review schedule for operational requirements." Goldman suspended the atmosphere of the answer for a full 3 seconds. Then he pulled out the second document. "If you want to regularly follow this kind of political and institutional analysis, subscribe to our channel and keep the notifications on. Let's continue." Chapter 3. 3 documents, 1 pattern. Goldman laid out the documents one by one on the table. "This is the letter the committee wrote to your office on September 12th. Specifically demands, all Epstein documents scheduled for release will be published. No delays, no additional review, no exception." He placed 2 documents side by side, then pulled out a third. "This is the timeline my office prepared over the past 4 months. It tracks every Epstein-related document scheduled for release since January and shows the status of each one," he said, placing the documents in front of Patel. "How many of the 47 documents approved for release do you estimate have actually reached the public, Director Patel?" Patel looked at his lawyers. The notes were not passing. There was no whispering. He was all alone. "I need to examine the specific details." Goldman slowly shook his head, with the look of a teacher who already knows the wrong answer. "The answer is 11.
11 out of 47. The remaining 36 were delayed, reclassified, or quietly dropped from the publication schedule. He leaned forward. 36 documents, Director. This is not a delay. This is a pattern. This is a pattern.
Section 4. Document number 23. Goldman opened the timeline document to a specific page. I want to focus on a specific document. Document number 23. This document was approved to be published on September 5th. It passed every legal review. It was approved by the Classification Board. It is planned to be announced to the public on September 19th. He looked at Patel. Never came out. Why? Patel did not answer. This document is not an ordinary file. A witness statement linked to Epstein's Palm Beach property. And this testimony contains a name your office has been working to keep under wraps for months. Goldman paused. The room waited. That name is Donald Trump. That name is Donald Trump. Chapter 5. Context and Distinction. Goldman paused before continuing his remarks and framed the context. It's important to clarify this. Donald Trump has not faced any criminal charges related to Jeffrey Epstein. He denies all the allegations and states that he was unaware of Epstein's criminal activities. Then he added, but what the documents say is a completely different matter. He mentioned that it is present in the Epstein documents already released to the public. Flight records show that Trump traveled multiple times on Epstein's private jet between 1993 and 1996. These records were made public during court proceedings. An internal Justice Department email from 2020 indicates that flight records show more travel than previously reported. This is not speculation. It's not a conspiracy theory. The information is available in documents published to the public. Then he returned to the question. And document number 23 contains witness testimony on this matter. It was not published on the scheduled date, and this document, along with the other 35 unpublished documents, allegedly contains the same name. Chapter 6. Direct Question. Goldman closed the folder. He looked directly at Patel. Director Patel, I will ask you directly. Does Donald Trump appear anywhere in the Epstein files? Patel. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? It's not a complicated question. Does Donald Trump appear anywhere in the Epstein files? For 11 months, Kash Patel had been giving prepared answers at every hearing, deflecting every tough question with bureaucratic language. But he couldn't say anything in response to this question. The room fell silent. Goldman continued. Can you answer this question, Director Patel? Patel's lawyer interjected. Our director is in an open session regarding specific content related to ongoing document review processes. I directed the question to the client, Goldman interrupted. Whether any name appears in the documents is not classified operational information. Patel spoke last. Senator, it would not be appropriate for me to discuss the contents of the documents related to this investigation in an open session. Goldman shook his head. It won't be appropriate. Whether any name appears in any document. Does this explain the questioning of the documents you have delayed publishing for months? Patel did not respond. Chapter 7. What was happening outside? While the trial was ongoing, other developments were also occurring during the same period, according to publicly available sources. Various legal groups had initiated court proceedings for the release of Epstein documents, and some documents were being gradually made public through court rulings. The timing of Goldman's questions was not just a political maneuver. It was part of a document access struggle that was progressing in parallel with the court proceedings. The FBI's release of documents directly affects court schedules, and therefore the timeline document is a critical indicator. Chapter 8. Claim or Reality. At this point, it is again necessary to draw critical distinctions clearly. Verified in publicly available documents, flight records indicating that Trump traveled multiple times on Epstein's private jet in the 1990s have been made public in court proceedings. References to the 2020 Department of Justice email appeared in various sources. Goldman stated that this information is available in publicly accessible documents. Unverified claims. The content of document number 23 and the direct reason for its non-publication have not been confirmed by independent sources. The claim that the non-publication of 36 documents is linked to a single name has not been verified. The accuracy of the timeline prepared by Goldman's office is open to independent review. Important note about Trump. Trump has not been accused of any crime or wrongdoing related to Epstein. The mention of a name in the documents does not prove a legal accusation. Keeping this distinction clear is an essential part of any analysis on this subject. Chapter 9. What does Patel's silence mean? Patel's lack of a clear answer to Goldman's question can be interpreted in different ways. Patel's position. Sharing document contents in an open session could affect ongoing processes. This is a defensible position on legal grounds. Goldman's position. Whether any name appears in any document is not classified operational information. This question technically requires a yes or no answer. The tension between these two positions actually reflects the core issue at the heart of the Epstein documents debate. Where is the line drawn between transparency and the protection of ongoing processes? And who draws this line? The lack of an answer to Goldman's question became the strongest indication that this question remains unanswered. Son, the unspoken question. Some questions say more than their answers. Goldman prepared for months before asking that question. He created timelines. He analyzed document patterns. He revealed that 11 out of 47 approved documents were published. And finally, in front of the camera, with an open microphone, he asked a single question. The question Washington has been whispering about for months. Patel did not respond. This silence is not evidence of a crime. Legal consequences are uncertain. Investigations are ongoing. Documents are gradually reaching the public. But that silence reveals why the accountability discussion has progressed so slowly on this issue. Because sometimes the strongest answer is not the one given, but the one not given. If you have followed this analysis up to this point and want to keep track of the developments in this process, subscribe to our channel and keep notifications on. We will continue to share analyses on corporate transparency and document access here. You can share your thoughts in the comments. How should the balance be struck between transparency and legal restrictions in document publication processes? See you in the next video.